Well, what do you know? I bet you thought I wasn't going to do it this week. I bet you really thought it wasn't going to happen. But in fact, here I am. I read the chapter I just finished reading at Son's Coffee. They charged me $6.50 for an iced latte. $6.50, that's a little steep, huh? But now I get to hang out in front of the courtyard. And oh my gosh, check out this St. Augustine. Oh yeah. So, Son's Coffee. Yeah, no, Black is the Body. That's what we're going over today. And the last chapter and the epilogue. You know, it's a big deal, right? Wrapping this semester up on a good note. I'm going to read it and I'm going to talk about it. And you know what I did? I've actually got some notes that I can talk about on my pocket. Let me whip them out here. The first, I just kind of gonna diet it. And I don't know, my diet's going to be a little shaky this week. Basically because I got a lot to say. And, you know, we've been doing the diet for so much. The old faithful diet, yeah. Man, as far as I'm concerned, diet can kind of take a walk. I want to have a little conversation here. Well, it's one-sided. It's more of a monologue. But I want to talk about what I felt reading that chapter. All right, so basically in the beginning, I got excited because she started in the middle. This grass is actually not as soft as I thought it would be. But yeah, she started in the middle, which is like one of those story structures that we were talking about. So I thought that was really fun. And she was just talking about her interview that she had with Ellie as what does home mean. And then she goes on to talk about how, you know, some people can dislike certain things about home or have different ideas of it. She goes over a quote that I really liked that was, "It's impossible to dislike nature itself." I go around and around with this. My lady that I'm marrying, I love her to death. She's not a big camper though, and I do like to camp. I understand that there are some things about camping that really suck, like sleeping in a tent, and you could just like sleep in a bed and shit. But like, I'm always like, hey man, you know, it's impossible to dislike nature itself. And I think that's a strong argument to make right there. So I like that she kind of snuck that in for me. And then she starts really talking about Vermont and what she thinks about the place and how it feels. One of her big points that she makes is that no black man has ever been killed by police in Vermont. And, you know, ironically, that comes as a shock, but it's like it shouldn't even come as a shock. That should really be the benchmark. But no, it's true. No black man's ever been killed in Vermont. And the first thought I had before she even addressed it was, you know, well, there's not a lot of black men to kill in Vermont. You know, it's like one of the whitest states out there. And I don't know, well, she kind of plays with this idea a little bit more, but in the North, they all are like real excited about, you know, how they're like, oh, well, we're not racist. And it's like, oh yeah, well, why do you not have any black people that live with y'all, you know? And so she just talks about that idea of, well, yeah, no one's been killed, but there's not a lot of black people out here to kill. She says it's 85% more likely that they'll get pulled over, though. And so depending on, well, I mean, it's totally wrong to kill someone, but depending on how you look at it, it's like, well, then she talks about it with the South. It's like, are they being treated worse in the North? Right? It's kind of peculiar. Black man's ever been killed in Vermont. Well, there's not a lot of black people in Vermont, and black people are treated pretty differently in Vermont. So she just talks about this whole stay and leave idea out of New England. Oh, it's this, but I want to stay. And oh, well, they make me feel weird, and I want to leave. And the weather's great. Well, I want to stay. And well, the weather actually sucks sometimes. I want to leave. And I go over that a lot in my own mind. I've been looking into moving to New Hampshire in maybe a year or maybe a week. I don't know. And they have a good quality of living up there, and everyone talks about how nice it is, but they've got some brutal winters. And it seems like all the best places have a drawback, right? And people are like, oh, well, Texas is great because it's cheap and it's affordable and the weather's good. It's always sunny. And it's like, well, yeah, it is sunny, but is that all we've got going for us? You know, if there's no real price to pay, then sometimes there's no real reward, right? Even LA, people love LA because it's always sunny. Well, I don't know if I can talk all that bad. I can talk all that bad about LA. LA is kind of a dump, right? So with everything, there's ups and downs. And yeah, New England has certainly got its own set of ups and downs, and I think about them a lot. And I think that it is just, there's a price you need to pay for something good. And when people talk about how great Texas is because it's so mild, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's such a lame thing to talk about. What else do I have? I want to be with people like me, she talks about, with that whole, that event that she wants to go to. And I'm almost like, well, I don't know, I guess it's not I don't know, I wrote down self-segregation because I was like, was that just, I guess it's like a longing for kinship and stuff, but, you know, is that in and of itself segregating? Is that in and of itself borderline tribal, you know, to want to be around people like yourself? We all want it, you know, we all want friends and close ones with the same ideas and characteristics of ourselves, but when does that become weird? I guess when you're hating on other people. Yeah, that's easily when you draw the line there, but it's just a point that stuck out to me. Let's see what else we talked about. Oh yeah, high versus close. Yeah, that is true. The North will let black folks do what they want, but they're not really going to want to be close to them. And I think that also might just be a problem with the North in general. They're not very open and close to each other. Whereas in the South, you know, people are going to talk to you. And people are going to talk to you when you know, go by and make eye contact with them. One of the things that freaks me out about UNT and freaked me out so much with COVID was that people stopped talking to each other. And it's my generation too. We don't do it. But like, you know, you can walk by someone really close and they won't even look at you. You know, you can even look at them in the eyes and they won't even make a note, like a remark or a movement. And I like to jog, and so like when I go and jog in like Kaufman, which is a small country town, like an hour away, you know, everybody waves at you. Even people in the cars look at you and wave. That's kind of just a great thing about neighborhoods and having community. But I'll run through campus and people just are so squirrely about it. They won't look at me, they won't acknowledge or wave, and I'll wave and they'll just kind of like get taken aback by it. And I'm like, that's really sad how we've kind of nuked our sense of community and our sense of just being in touch with each other. So yeah, I get when she went on that little rant about how in the South, when you don't wave back, there's something wrong. I agree with that. She talks about loving your home and how that's like loving yourself. And I don't know, I don't really have that. I don't really have a home. Like, I'm not homeless, right? But I don't know, I grew up in Houston for a little bit, and then I moved to Wiley for a little bit, and now I live in Denton, and I really don't like it in Denton, so I guess I'll go to Fort Worth, but I really want to move out of Texas. And it's like, I've always been kind of like without a connection to where I live. And she gets on to the end of the chapter talking about just a place to be. That's all I think we can really ask for sometimes. I don't know, I'd like to give my children a home one day, but home is just something that I've never really had specifically in a place. It's more been a concept or a person, you know, that home is where I'm alone. You know, I like to have home. My idea of that is just to be with people that make me feel comfortable. Let's see what else I wrote down. Identifying one's kin. Oh, that's another one that's tough. She talked about how like Muslims can see each other and whatnot, but I wrote and I thought about like how for white Americans it's so weird, right? Because we've killed our culture. Like, we don't have a culture because like we all look white, you know, but it doesn't really mean anything. You don't know where someone's from. You don't know what their culture really is, right? Oh, are you a Jimmy Buffett white person, or are you like one of those weird white people that like listens to metal music and stuff? Ugh, that's freaky. But it's like, yeah, white people don't really have culture. They're kind of blank slates. And no, I think it's weird. It's kind of like home. It's just another thing that I've never really had and I've never really dug into. Because because I don't really think there's much to dig into in white European descent culture. It just doesn't really exist all that much. And, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, I guess. You can feel free to comment on this and talk about that. But, yeah, I know you guys are white, too. So it's like, yeah, there's really not much to it. So I guess there's, like, the American culture. Well, you could just call it consumerism. But, you know, it's kind of weird. She talks about that Swiss village. That, maybe it shouldn't have, but it kind of made me giggle when those children were calling him that specific word. I was like, wow, that's crazy. They don't think they're being mean, but they're hyping him up. They're like, oh, look, here he comes. And that wouldn't be a very cool thing to do here in America. And I think we get the first F word out of Emily Bernard. I mean, you know, I haven't been reading for a couple of weeks, so maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, she let us know. She let us know how she really felt about it. And I was like, all right, go off then. F word. Yeah, I mean, I can say it, right? Fucking, right? I'm a grown man. Fucking. I can say that word. That's fine. But yeah, she loves it here. Yeah, they talked about how, like, you know, there are problems with Vermont, but he loves it here. And I'm like, well, that's love in and of itself, right? You got to be able to put up with the ups and downs. You got to be able to pour yourself into something. And that's what love really is about. Home fluctuates like culture. I kind of talked about that. Home means different things for different people. As she said with the person from Iran and Somalia and whatnot, home is important to you if your culture thinks it's important and if it's something that you have a priority on. And I, being a white, you know, American person, it just doesn't really mean too much to me right now. Hopefully one day it will. Based on needs and talks about a place to be. And then at the end she just kind of talks about her mom's writing, about how telling is healing, and it just makes me want to be a writer. I know that's like not the point, but it makes me excited about writing and about telling and about thinking. Telling is healing, is basically just the idea of therapy, you know. It's always been the solution. What's the solution? Always talk about it, right? So I think that was the whole gist of Emily Bernard. She's like, hey, I'm black and there are issues in America with being black. I'm going to talk about it, and hopefully you guys will too. And look, we are. So I think it's good to be able to talk and heal. Anyways, that's been about 12 minutes. And I've got my grounding in.